Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fallout 76 for another trip to Mama Mumble's Discount Den of Disappointment. As always, we'll spend 1,000 Scrip on 3-star legendary weapons, talk about what makes them good, bad, or somewhere in between, and see if we get anything interesting. Remember, friends, I'm spending my Scrip at the Purveyor so you don't have to. I'd strongly recommend using the legendary crafting system for your own in-game needs, but these visits give me a chance to talk about and consider random combinations that we might not see or think about otherwise. I've got plenty of Scrip to waste, so don't shed any tears for me. Let's get started. And our first roll of the day is an anti-armor missile launcher with 25% damage while aiming and 90% reduced weight. So there's a lot of good stuff going on here if somebody is a explosive launcher build. Anti-armor is of course going to ignore half of our target's armor. That's always good, yields extra damage for all intents and purposes. Extra damage while aiming is going to give us another little boost there, and that's not a bad thing to use with a missile launcher, but probably the best effect is 90% reduced weight. What's cool about that is if you are built for a weapon like this, it makes it easy to carry around with your normal loadout, but even if you're not built for a weapon like this, it makes it easy to carry around. So maybe you pick up a bunch of missiles, maybe you go through a silo and you get dumped 6 or 8 or 10 missiles as a quote-unquote reward at the end. With a lightweight weapon like this, you can burn through those just for a little bit of fun because let's face it, making things explode in the apocalypse is fun. Let's keep going. And now we've got a suppressor's laser pistol with the last shot effect that gives us a 1 in 4 chance to deal double damage on the last round in the magazine and 50 damage resistance while aiming. So this one to me is basically a big giant waste of time. The suppressor's effect is going to reduce our target's damage output by a little bit, but who cares? Nothing is all that deadly in Fallout 76. Last round in the magazine, well, if we're doing tactical reloads as we go, we're not going to fire very many last rounds, so that's not very useful. And a little extra damage resistance while aiming, honestly, who cares? This weapon is, for all intents and purposes, a non-legendary laser pistol and a gigantic waste of time. Let's keep going. Moving right along, now we've got a furious Gatling plasma with limb damage and extra perception. So this one is not bad. The furious effect is ideal on a weapon like this where we're going to be landing multiple shots on the same target, so that's useful. Extra limb damage, I don't love that effect, but against bosses it can be useful, especially on a weapon like this, again, where we're going to be landing multiple shots, so why not get a little extra benefit out of it? Extra perception isn't really doing a whole lot for us here. We could argue that maybe it'll help with VATS accuracy if we're going to use VATS, but it's going to be pretty insignificant. Now this one, while not an amazing drop, at least the furious effect makes sense on this weapon. Now this one, like the one previously, they are energy weapons, so do bear in mind that when the next update comes out, energy weapons are going to get a boost, so that's going to be a big help. Still probably not going to make that last one worthwhile, but this one will become a little bit better. Now we've got a Zealots 44 with VATS critical shots doing more damage and 90% reduced weight. So here again, kind of an interesting one because of the reduced weight. The Zealots effect is not an ideal effect for me. It's a situational damage effect, so it only affects certain enemies, but Scorched are fairly common. This is a weapon that's kind of ideal for sort of a lower to mid-level player. Obviously, they would hope to get one that is appropriate to their level, not level 45. But they have something here that can do extra VATS critical damage, which is useful. Extra damage to one of the more common enemies you'll encounter, especially on quests. And with 90% reduced weight, it makes it easy to carry around. So even if you're not built for it, you can carry this around, use it as a backup, burn through some of that 44 ammo that you pick up here and there throughout the game, and maybe get a little bit of mileage out of it. Not going to be your end game weapon, but could be useful for somebody. Next up, we've got an anti-armor gamma gun with extra VATS hit chance and additional perception. Now, this is not a weapon that you're likely to run around using to kill enemies in Fallout 76, but it is the kind of weapon you can keep around for PvP and make some use out of. Anti-armor is going to be helpful for you. Extra VATS hit chance is going to be very helpful. You can target weak points and land more more damaging shots on your target, so that's useful. Extra perception will give you a teeny tiny little nudge for VATS accuracy as well. I would prefer to see something like quad here because the magazine size on a gamma gun is fairly small. But if you're using it for PvP, most players are fairly squishy. We don't walk around with a whole lot of HP, so I believe 8 shots in the magazine, if you land all of them, should be enough to win your fight. But that's assuming you use VATS in PvP at all. Next up, we've got a Mutant's Fat Man with VATS hit chance and 250 damage resistance while reloading. So this one is pretty okay if you are doing an explosive launcher build. The Mutant's effect is 5% more damage for every mutation you have, which is not amazing. It's only a 25% buff, but the Fat Man deals a ton of damage already. So you're already in pretty good shape with a weapon like this. Extra VATS hit chance is kind of interesting here. The Fat Man behaves rather strangely in VATS. You will notice when you use it that your projectile will fly in all kinds of weird directions and then eventually home in on your target. So that's kind of strange, but it does work, and you could use that to your advantage. Damage resistance while reloading I don't normally love, but in this case where you reload it every shot and it's not a super fast reload, any little bit of protection you can get helps. So not a bad roll. This one, on the other hand, is not amazing. This is an Assassin's Ultrasight Gatling laser with VATS hit chance and extra perception. If you are one of those odd birds out there who is running a VATS-centric heavy gun build, then I guess extra VATS hit chance and perception is helpful for you, but I just don't think there's very many people doing that. Extra damage to humans doesn't hurt, but humans are squishy, so you really don't need that. That's really not getting you a whole lot of mileage, so I'm just not in love with this one. In addition to that, the Gatling laser and the Ultrasight Gatling laser are both underpowered, even in the new update where energy damage gets a nice lift. For all intents and purposes, it gets a buff. It's more complicated than that, but that's as simple as it needs to be for a video like this. It gets better, but it's still underpowered. I'd like to see this one do a little more damage than it does, so I don't love it. And we've got Assassins again, this one with 25% faster fire rate and extra perception. So the Assassin's effect, once again, damage to humans is fairly unnecessary. It's better than a sharp stick in the eye, I guess, but that would probably be more effective in killing enemies around the map than the Assassin's effect. 25% faster fire rate really isn't doing anything for you here. This is not an automatic weapon. In theory, if you pull the trigger really, really fast, maybe you can fire it a little bit faster, but it's not really doing anything for you here unless it charges up faster. And if memory serves me right, we tested that once and we found out that it doesn't. So really nothing special there. Extra perception, I guess, will help you with VATS accuracy. So if you really want a Gauss rifle and you don't have a legendary one, then I suppose this is better than nothing, but you'll probably stumble on something better very, very quickly. Let's keep moving. And now we've got another Fat Man. We've got a Ghoul Slayer's Fat Man with damage while aiming and extra perception. So the Ghoul Slayer's effect here is fairly useless. The Fat Man is going to deal more than enough damage to kill ghouls in one shot on its own. So extra damage to ghouls doesn't really do a whole lot for us. Damage while aiming is sort of helpful. At least that gives us a little bit of a buff against everything else. So that's not bad. I'd prefer something, if it had to be a Slayer effect, I'd prefer to see something like Mutant Slayers where, you know, it's something we can use against enemies that might not be dying in one shot every single time, no matter what. But yeah, so it is what it is. Extra perception will help with our VATS accuracy slightly, but probably not enough to notice. Unfortunately, at 20 pounds, this one's going to definitely go in the Scrip bin. That I still think is the most effective legendary effect on a Fat Man, is making it weigh only 2 pounds, and sadly that one does not. Now finally we end up with something at least pretty good. Well, that missile launcher at the beginning was pretty good too. We've got a bloodied Gauss pistol with bashing damage and damage resistance while reloading. The bloodied effect on a weapon like this is going to be very, very effective. This is already a high damage weapon, so increasing that damage with bloodied is just going to make that even more deadly. That's very, very useful. I'd certainly prefer, again, to see something like that's hit chance as a second star. Bashing damage is pretty much useless. I'll make my case again. Bashing damage does nothing on anything but the shredding minigun, so maybe consider changing it to bashing speed. That would at least make it useful during resilient daily ops when you're kind of sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to bash a second time. That might actually make it useful. The way it is, it's not very useful. Damage resistance while reloading, meh on a weapon like that. Let's just be honest with ourselves. It was okay. Sadly, our visit is done today. We got a couple of kind of interesting things, but nothing truly amazing. But that's how it goes at the Purveyor sometimes, and that's why I call it Mama Mumble's Discount Den of Disappointment, because usually we're disappointed. I do hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. There's always more to come on the channel, and I hope I see you all next time.